Chance plays a huge part in my work. I think it's very important for me to start with abstract techniques. Techniques, some that I'm familiar with, some that are quite spontaneous. I feel like I'm always experimenting in the beginning stages of painting to see what I can create through pure abstraction. And then when I get to a certain point, I will begin to design the work a bit, manipulate it more with a conscious idea of what I want the work to be about. At the moment, I'm looking at architectural landscape and how we exist within architectural spaces. A lot of the work relates to layering techniques, juxtaposition of harsh architectural man-made lines, and also the sort of more organic abstract layering techniques of paint. I've recently been looking at bacteria bricks and living, breathing architecture, the future of cities and biomimicry. Quite interested in many architects. Architecture is always something that I've taken the time to look at and show an interest in. I'm looking at the work of Vincent Calabout, David Adjaye. So a lot of the architecture may be things I've seen around London. I'm photographing ceilings, rooftops. There's going to be dimensions from underground tube systems or tiles. There's many things that interest me about the perspectives that you get from architecture and dimensional space. Also, I'll be browsing the internet, looking for certain architects that I'm interested in. As I collage these elements, I would take parts that I'm interested in, cut them out, draw them, work them through into the pieces, rearrange them to create some kind of interesting, surreal or abstract composition. If I was to do any drawings, preliminary works, they would be separate pieces of work. So they may be designs that I would work through on a small scale, but then I would never try and recreate that again on a larger scale, because I feel that's kind of pointless, because they're two different pieces of work that have two different places they can end up, because there's a lot of chance involved, a lot of abstraction. I can't predict that I would necessarily want to recreate that piece again. So I think what I do is maybe take parts from it, some influence from it, and rework it so that it fits with the elements that I've already begun with the larger piece. So I think every work is an individual. I don't think many works I'd ever direct copies of something that I've done before. I think that would just look stale and not very unique, or I don't know, interesting. It would look a bit too controlled. There's always a chance that a painting is going to get stuck. It could turn into something you didn't perceive it to become. You could be left somewhere where you're unsure. You may hate the work. It may need more time. I think there's nearly always a way to save the painting, because there can always be more layers added, and I think the more layers I add, the more history there is to the mark making. I feel that there's always a way of saving the painting. So sometimes it might just need to sit there for 6 months whilst I work on other things. I'll keep adding a few layers here and there, and if I feel that it has some kind of form to it that can be achieved, I will make sure that it's finished. And I think some of those hardest works, the ones that sit there the longest, the ones that you're most unsure about for the longest, are sometimes the ones that need the most radical idea to make it work, and they're sometimes the best pieces. I feel like I've experienced both sides of the coin. I'd spent the first part of my artistic journey having not studied, so I was quite a latecomer to a degree. In my early 30s, I did my BA at Camberwell, UAL. So as I was travelling, often around Europe or South America, I would be making work and selling work as I was travelling, often in the street or markets, or selling to bars, cafes. Always had the dream of being a professional artist, but I knew I loved to travel. I decided to study because I really enjoyed my BA and how much they pushed me to home in on what makes my work relevant, what makes it interesting, what makes it stand out, I suppose. And that led to the Terps Painters course, which is an artist-led collective. So I did a year with them, and that was great as well. That was some really honest insights into what it's like to be a professional artist in London or in the UK. Again, that then pushed me to get to do the MA at the RCA, and I feel working alongside the students there has really pushed my practice quite far. So I feel definitely quite good about the results of having gone through a formal education. I think it has helped. One of the most important things that you leave art school with is a community of other artists who are receiving opportunities and are having shows. You meet gallery owners, you meet curators, you meet documentary filmmakers. Yeah, the formal education has left me with something to work with, which are the small stepping stones that lead to a career where people may be more interested in your work, I suppose.